This is worldofreggae.com, live and direct here in Nottingham, celebrating the life and the launch of a book, Rodigan, My Life in Reggae. David, give thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see you again, from Leicester to Nottingham.
Very much so.
Is your location in Leicester, is it top secret, isn't it?
Damn. Right. What I can say is that we are the champions of the Premier League at the moment, though.
Indeed you are.
So David, the first question I have to ask is, did Damian Marley refuse to voice dub plates for you if you did not write this book?
Very good question. No, he didn't go that far, but he did make it abundantly clear to me that I should write the book, and it was as a result of him saying so in rather a firm manner at the just before he went on stage at an after party in Hoxton at the Carnival of 3 years ago that I realised maybe I should. So thank you, Damien. I wrote the book.
Had the thought come into your mind prior to Damien putting that thought into your head, though?
It had done, and over the years many people had said you should write a book because there's a story to be told and it's an interesting story, and historically it would be a good thing to write because you were there from Scar and you stayed with it, so you would have memories and anecdotes relating to it. So yeah, people had asked me before, why don't you write a book? But I just figured it would only be of interest to real reggae heads like myself, and I didn't think a publisher would want to pick up on something that was so specialised.
I mean, have you been taken aback by the overwhelming support that not just the reggae industry, but, music lovers in general seem to be showing you? Because, you've been going up and down the country celebrating the launch of the book. You've had sort of gigs in Liverpool, Glasgow, London. What's it been like from your point of view?
Frankly, I've been absolutely amazed and blown away by the response. If you told me there would be a response like this, I would have said no, but it has been phenomenal. I mean, all the Q&As have been sold out. There's been long queues of people waiting to have the book signed, and it's had really good reviews. I've not heard any negative comments. I've frankly been astonished, to be honest, that it's generated such interest. So thanks to Ian Burrell, who wrote it with me, and well, in the sense that he's the journalist writer. I told the stories and he transformed it into this book, and I have to salute him every time.
I mean, I read the book on the first weekend that I had it delivered, and you recount so many of those sort of like timeless memories. You start off with obviously your first meetings with Bob. You go into like your first visits to Jamaica and things. Now, I don't want to sit here talking with you about every single chapter in the book, but a couple of things that come to mind. We know about your first dubplate voicing in the original format with Michael Prophet at King Tubby's studio. What was the first sound system dubplate that you can recall having it with your name in it?
I honestly can't remember. I do remember receiving my first dubplate with my name in it, and it was actually Mikey Dread. He did dubplates didn't really exist then. It was a glorified jingle. It was Barber's Saloon, and it was a rhythm track of Barber's Saloon with him changing Barber's Saloon into a dub with my name in it. I'd never had anything like that before then, and the other time it happened was with Joseph Cotton, who then was known as Jar Walton, and he came from Jamaica, I think 1984, and to London, and he brought a dub plate with him, which was again a glorified jingle. It was a rhythm track, and my name was in it. But I didn't play either of them publicly because I thought it was too egotistical, and that no one would want to hear a record with someone's name in it, because what did that have to do with the music? So, and that's really how it was then. This dubplate thing with your name in it came into fashion in the late 80s, and then it became such that if you didn't have your name in it in a clash, then you couldn't compete. So in order to compete, I then decided that I would cut dubplates.
And that's something that's still happening very, very strongly. I mean, in certain parts of the world, especially Europe, we seem to be almost having like a delayed response, because I mean, there seems to be so many sound systems over in Europe in particular that, are still going strong. Like, people like yourself probably started out in the 80s and 90s. Why do you think that is?
I think it's just because it is an addictive culture. The music has an addictive quality to it. And not just the music, but the way in which the music is portrayed and the way in which people enjoy it. and sound system culture is a bit like football, really. It is a form of sport, it's a musical sport, and it has the same kind of attraction that sport has, where people follow teams and they want that team to win. It's the competitive element that's been brought into the game, for want of a better word, into the industry with the advent of clashing, and it's just grown and grown and grown.
Now, you're someone that's no stranger to clashing, you know, world champion in 2012 against Space Odyssey in New York. What a big win that was. But, you know, putting aside, obviously, you know, the wealth of dub plates and ammunition that I know that you have, so that when you go into a clash, the opposition are definitely going to be fearful. Are there any artists that come to mind at this moment where you wish that you'd had an opportunity to voice them?
Yeah, I'd like to have voiced more with Dennis Brown. It was very hard to get the dub I did get from him because it just was. Yeah, definitely Dennis. Obviously Bob. I don't believe. I mean, some people say he did voice dubs. Possibly he did. He's reputed to have done one for Sound in New York. But then there's other people say he didn't. I mean, to be honest, yes, if Bob was around, that would have been good. I think I got the ones that really counted. I mean, there's some I could still get, but I don't feel the need to do so. I mean, I think the dubplate culture is overplayed. I think there's too much emphasis on, you know, having dubs. I think often the record is better than the dubs. And it certainly happened to me where I voiced dubs and I still play the record because it's better than the dub. I think it's given too much of a priority by young sound systems, and they feel as if they can't do anything or they can't compete if they don't have them. That's bonkers. I think it's not that important. What is important is how can you entertain people. And so I would say, in a direct answer to your question, I got most of the dubs from most of the people I wanted, and I'm perfectly happy with what I've got. I don't have the biggest collection by far. There are people that have got hundreds of dubs, hundreds and hundreds of dubs that I don't have. But you know what? They can only play so many dubs in an hour, even if you only play a minute of each. And I don't think it's a question of how many you've got. It's a question of what you have got and how you play them and when you play them.
Very, very true words. At the moment, we seem to be almost having like this resurgence, almost like lots and lots of interest in reggae music across the world. We've got a very, very vibrant scene. You know, vinyl is on the up as well. We're seeing issues and reissues of songs that have never been pressed on vinyl. One that comes to mind is Clive Hilton's From Creation, has just come on a 7-inch. Why do you think there's so much interest at the moment?
I think because the music is so deep and it has a tremendous history and heritage, and that when these recordings are unveiled and discovered in the vaults of various production houses, they become sought after because they were special when they were made, and because they're no longer available, that makes them even more collectible. That's why we're seeing braces of reissues from various studios and various record companies from Japan to America and worldwide. I think it's a very exciting thing. I'm not bothered at all about whether or not it's an original press. I couldn't give a toss. What matters to me is, have you got the record? And if I have to buy it on a repress, so what? It doesn't matter. It's not what it's made on, it's what's contained within it. It is a recording, and by definition it means it is just that. It is a copy of something that happened at a moment in time. You weren't there when it was made. The only people there were the people that sung it and the engineer and the people who played the instruments. So as close as you're going to get to it is having the song to hear in your own residence. Doesn't matter if it's a repress.
Very, very true. The message is within the music, of course. Looking forwards now, are there any plans to perhaps have an audio book of this great autobiography that you've written?
We're looking at that now, yeah. It's being suggested that I should sit down and send people to sleep with my droning voice. Hello, no. Hello, it's Dave here doing my autobiography. No, seriously, it has been suggested that we do an audio book, and yeah, we're looking at that, but we're taking one step at a time.
Reading through the book, you've achieved so much in your life, in my opinion. What is there left for you to do? Is there anything on your bucket list of things that you'd like to achieve? If we were sitting or standing here, let's say in 3 years' time, what could we look back on and say, that was something that I wanted to achieve?
That's very interesting. Secretly, I guess I wish I'd always had a record company. I would like to have had the pleasure of having had a back catalogue to reflect upon. I would also have liked to have been able to produce records. I could have done, but I chose not to because I always wanted to maintain a neutral position as a broadcaster and not be encumbered by having to defend myself against people who ask, oh, if you're a broadcaster, how come you're producing records? Back in the 70s, you weren't allowed to be involved in the industry. You had to be independent. So I was trained in that way. So I guess that those would be two things that I would like to have done. And I'd like to have read more books. I'm an avid reader, and I still have books in my library that I haven't finished or haven't even started. So if I had more time and I had more things to do and time to do them, I would like to read a lot more of the books that I've yet to read.
David, I want to give thanks to you for your time today for the viewers of worldofreggae.com. Wish you every success going forward, and no doubt we'll be seeing you over in Europe as well. I know that you're lined up to do a clash with Jammies as well at Reggae Jam, and I'm sure that there's going to be other dates in the pipeline as well. We give thanks for your time today.
And before I go, I want to thank you, and you can turn away if you're going to be shy, for all that you've done for this music with your total commitment and passion as a broadcaster, the things you do online. Your reputation goes before you. People know of you, and we are all grateful to you for what you've done, and I mean that.
David, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Why do you think pop stars like Drake and Rihanna are using reggae beats in their songs?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think they're using reggae beats because they like reggae beats, just like me and you. I think reggae beats are very danceable, and because they have that bom, 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 people get into it because it's like, oh, this is a really cool beat, I can dance. Whereas reggae's got more of a chunka, traditional reggae. It's a bit slower, whereas dancehall beats are danceable, and that's why I think Drake and Rihanna have done it, and I think that's a very cool question.